talk about this or crow about this or argue about it on social media, which social media is just
It's a cesspool.
It's horrible. It's the worst. I mean, but it's just do. They go
But
on.
please, though, smash the like button.
Please like, subscribe on the social media.
Welcome to Pod Have Mercy.
So what we decided today, last week we just kind of caught up from the summer and what we learned and things like that. Today I actually have a topic, and it's a relevant topic, and it's a timely topic. And what's interesting...
And you haven't disclosed this to us.
I have not disclosed to Jeff.
This is a
or
hot
Matt.
topic.
It's kind of a hot topic. It's a serious topic.
I got no prep for this. So
Yeah, but I want to remind people, make sure that you like and subscribe to the podcast. Make sure that I'm going to ask you to do it now before
Let's
we
pause
do
for
the
a moment.
podcast, so that in case because if you don't like it, you can go back and unsubscribe too. But that would be great because it helps the algorithm and all the good stuff. And we're on episode like 275, no, 200 and something.
203 or 204.
203.
Yeah, we've been doing this for
You and I have been doing this for
5+ years.
Dude, that's amazing to me.
I know.
Remember we started off by asking each other questions? Remember when our wives were on?
Yes. She didn't. My wife did not want to be on there.
No, that happened once.
No, I've said this before. It's like an oral history when you go back, and we started like February of 2020. And of course, COVID shut everything down mid-March 2020.
A month later, we were
sitting there. I was sitting right next to 3 feet. We could smell each other's breath. And I'm like, you heard of this thing called COVID?
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah. I was like, and Matt's like, I don't know anything.
I don't know.
Anyway, so look here. So yeah, I'm coming in. I've got a topic. You can do this anytime you want. We'll do it the same way for you.
Really?
Yeah, you can bring in a topic. So
Oh,
I'm going to surprise
Hot topics.
Jeff and Matt. But I do want to get a little serious because yesterday morning I went down to with a group of other pastors to meet the new director of the Holocaust Museum in Houston. And it was a great visit. We sat around the table. We talked about that the Holocaust Museum is not just a museum for the Holocaust. It is, but that's the sort of the jumping off point to think about how we engage in the world with justice and how we stand up with our voice to speak out on certain things. And as we were talking around the tables, one pastor there spoke up, and because we talked about what are we struggling with, what are the issues today that we have a hard time, or where do we see that we need to be speaking into, and one of the guys talked about Gaza in Israel.
Yes.
And he said, it's kind of hard as I think about how to articulate being here at the Holocaust Museum where we're talking about
Great question.
genocide and people being displaced and killed, and now you have these things going on in Israel and in Gaza. And he's like, so I'm wondering, how do we talk about that in a way that leads to some healthy dialogue in ways that don't make you automatically called anti-Semitic or bigoted or whatever this is. And Mark, the new director of the Holocaust Museum, kind of spoke into that and said, I totally understand and relate, he said, and I think it is fair to criticize as long as we don't get to the place where he says that if we get to a place where we say Israel doesn't have a right to exist as a state or Israel doesn't have a right to protect themselves, their autonomy, he said that's kind of where the dividing line is. But that it's fair to talk in terms about the difference between Israel from a spiritual perspective and then kind of the partisan political perspective. So here's the topic today. There was actually an article that came out, as a matter of fact, yesterday, and it was from the Religious News Service, and it's by Jeffrey Salkin. And the title of the article is "When Orthodox Rabbis Demand Moral Clarity in Gaza." And I wanted to share this article and just kind of get it thinking about us. I think this is one of the things where it is hard because we see every day on the news, if you watch, this famine or people dying or, just and the children and the numbers of tens of thousands of people that have died in Gaza. And a lot of those people, let's just say, are innocent. They didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
There are definitely terrorists and there are bad people, but there are a lot of innocent people. And what happens whenever you mention this, and kind of I think what the pastor at the breakfast was referring to, is like when you talk about it, immediately people run to like the far sides of the room. You either have to be 100% all for Israel, or else you're saying Hamas is not terrorists and they killed them and you're delegitimizing all this and this, or, you know, you run to the other side of the room where you're free Palestine or you know, for Gaza, down with Israel. It's all of those extremes. You know, if you listen to this podcast, that we don't really care for those extremes. But here's what's interesting about this article, and I thought this could frame the conversation, because this is not John Stevens talking or Matt Russell or Jeff Wood talking. What he says is, when you have Reform and conservative rabbis issuing a statement raising concerns about how Israel is waging war in Gaza, you expect that, because Reform and conservative rabbis tend to be more
but Orthodox, progressive,
or liberal. But this is what he says. But now you have Orthodox rabbis issuing a similar statement. Now these I'm not really sure how they can call these guys anti-Semitic. Right. So if you're gonna attack the Orthodox rabbis, I don't think you want to go to the anti-Semitic route. Now he said this is completely and entirely different. He said there was a collective, worldwide ears perking up last week when 80 Orthodox rabbis from around the world. Yeah. Now, for people who don't understand, when we're talking about Orthodox rabbis, we're not talking about a grand diversity of worldview on religion and social issues and cultural issues and all these sorts of things. It's not like
it is a small club and they all have the same uniform.
All have the same uniform and they all have the same theology. There's no coloring outside the lines when it comes to
They are doing the exact
Orthodox.
Same thing around the world right now,
wherever
they are.
Whether they're in Norway or Denmark or Ireland or Poland or Israel. Okay, and just so we understand. But they entered a declaration, or they signed a declaration called A Call for Moral Clarity, Responsibility, and a Jewish Orthodox Response in the Face of the Gaza Humanitarian Crisis. And so he lists a lot of them that they're there. But what this Jewish reporter said is, he said the chutzpah, the audacity that Orthodox rabbis would publicly rebuke the government of Israel. The humility, on the other hand, that they are grounding their protest not in partisan politics, but in the Torah. As they put it, in our deepest Jewish values and informed by our traumatic history of persecution, we speak, right? We call for moral clarity. They start with number one, which I think everyone agrees with. I've never heard anybody disagree with this. Hamas is guilty of heinous crimes. The terrorist group that did the October 7th raid, the murder, the pillaging, I haven't heard anybody say, oh, that's not bad. Even the most liberal, progressive voices, I've not heard that. And what they say is, and they state that at the beginning, and nothing in their words erases that. But those rabbis also insist that the sins of Hamas do not cancel out Israel's obligations. And they write, we affirm that Hamas's sins and crimes do not relieve the government of Israel of its obligations to make whatever efforts are necessary to prevent mass starvation. I am advocating for Israel to flood Gaza with food and medicine, which is from a Jewish view the right thing to do, and at the same time, no one would be able to profit from the sale. And so they go on and they talk particularly and quote, because all of these Orthodox rabbis are students, or many of them are students of one man, Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik. I think I pronounced the name right. He is a preeminent modern Orthodox theologian, affectionately known as the Rav. Kind of like the Rev.
The Rev.
But the Rav.
I know somebody named the Rev.
Uh-huh. In his 1959 lecture, Religious Definitions of Man and His Social Institutions, the Rav warned, now with the state of Israel, we are facing the test. Will we behave like any state ethically? Will we act like masters? Or will we understand that Judaism does not know the concept of master and slave, victor and vanquished? And this challenge, they say, resounds even more today. Was one other, one or other two other thoughts, and then I thought we'd talk about this. They all agree that Israel's military victory and survival is crucial. Everyone on the statement would affirm that. Then not only are they to survive Israel, but to thrive in the Torah, and they want Israel to flourish morally and spiritually. Okay? But here's what they say. They know and agree the Jewish tradition demands that we sense the pain of a people with whom we are at war. One of the rabbis, Yitz Greenberg, said, the heart of the Torah is justice, not revenge. The Jewish heart is large enough to contain the outrage at the way our enemies have treated us.
Thank you. Thank you.
The belief that the innocent should not suffer.
Thank you.
Now, I think you could say that's the same of Christians who are viewing this, and how do we talk about it?
Yeah.
Our hearts in love through Christ are big enough to contain outrage at the way our enemies treat us, and the same thing is the belief that innocent should not suffer. And so they say Jews should be speaking out about this, that the moral scrutiny is important. And if people are getting tired of the moral scrutiny, they said, then remember Abraham and Moses. And they would tell you that moral scrutiny comes with the territory. You go to any synagogue on the Shabbat morning and listen to the prophetic reading. If you want moral scrutiny, critique of people, priests and princes, then read Isaiah, Amos, Jeremiah, it's all there. And so what they say is to be Jewish, to be a Jew, is to believe love and critique are not antagonists. Love and critique are not antagonists. They walk hand in hand. Now, as this kind of closed down, they also speak into extremist settler violence in the West Bank. The Orthodox...
right. What did they say about that?
They do not mince words. They say, quote, extremist settler violence has resulted in the murder of civilians and has forced Palestinian villagers from their homes, further destabilizing the region. It is hard to imagine such a sentence emerging from the mouths of many current Israeli officials, some of whom are themselves sympathetic or complicit to these extremist currents. And the rabbis who signed this statement have done something, he said, that is profoundly Jewish. They have reminded us that strength without compassion is not a Jewish version of strength. That victory without justice is not how Jews view victory. That loyalty without critique is not how Jews assess loyalty. And so what he says is that this critique is what the statement that they is born not out of critique nor out of the need to wag their fingers. It is a statement born out of love for Israel, love for Judaism, love for their faith and religion, and out of a need to wring their hands. Not for that. It's how should we critique Israel? He says with love and hand wringing.
Yes.
You have to have both. And these days, while there's a lot of hand wringing, there's not a lot of love. And so what's interesting...
Well, who says there's not a lot of love?
Well, he said you have to... He says that this is how Jews should critique Israel, with love and hand-wringing. These days, there is a lot of hand-wringing. Let there be a lot of love to match it.
Sure.
So I set the table with that because what's fascinating about this, if we were just to come in here and start talking about Gaza and Israel and everything, we might get ourselves
Gentile white dudes,
two Gentile Protestant Christian white dudes,
of everything.
and from the United States of America, I'm sure we'd get hammered by some. But the fact that this statement came out, not just from Jewish rabbis, but from Orthodox Jewish rabbis, was a really new twist in this whole conversation. It shouldn't be surprising, I guess. But it was refreshing to think that here is what we've lost in the world, is the ability to critique in love, to speak truth to situations that are dire and difficult, and to say that by speaking truth into that and saying this is an issue here doesn't dismiss the bad things that happened or the evil that happened.
No.
But this is the way people in our society in our modern days work. It's like you can't talk about the suffering in Gaza because that means you are delegitimizing Israel's right to exist, and therefore you must be anti-Semitic. And this is kind of where we go. We just, as soon as you say Israel needs to be doing more to care for these people, they're like, well, you must be anti-Semitic. I mean, this is how we talk to each other now.
Yeah, I think those are ways that shut down conversation, and I think that we have to be just really open to say that's a ploy to shut down a conversation and to win something. But what we're saying is that, and I want to take that off the table. I don't want to take off the table that, hey, being able to do deep sense of my own kind of prejudice or whatever that is, right? That's out there. But to shut something down by labeling it something of a critique is a way of not being able then to enter into a critical argument to become more human together, right? And so that works on whether you're talking about politics in the United States or politics within the United Methodist Church. Right. Those types of tactics are used in order to shut something down so that we can't say, what does it mean to be more human? What would a moral center look like if all things being equal, we could talk about this? Right. And so I think anti-Semitism doesn't have a place. It's hatred. It's the evacuation and the evisceration of a people. All of those things, right? The state of Israel exists because in the 40s, 6 million Jews were systematically killed in Europe through a policy that was set up through governments and through Christians in Europe. And so to say that they have a legitimate space in the world is yes. Then to be able to critique what they're doing geopolitically to another group of people that looks very similar to what was done to them is something I think that then when you're the deepest religious section of your whole community begins to wonder, what's happening with the starvation? Oh, y'all counted the amount of calories that are needed in Gaza and have reduced the food shipment based on that. Starvation of a people, is that over time? Is that something we should be doing? And to not be able to ask that question in conversation feels to me to be complicit with something that's not good in the world.
Yeah, and people throw around anti-Semitism like it's I don't know. People don't even know what it means anymore. And so a critique of, they say, well, then you're anti-Semitic. That's not what anti-Semitism means. No. Anti-Semitism is a way of delegitimizing the Jewish faith and religion, their right and agency and ability to exist and exist as a state. There may be people who think that, like Hamas or like maybe some other countries around the world, but that's when we have the dialogue here. These Orthodox rabbis certainly are not anti-Semitic.
No. And to be able to say there is immense suffering both in Gaza and in Israel. Right now in Gaza, there's an immense, if you can Google just images of starvation that's happening there. So to then criticize a governmental policy is different than an anti-Semitic move that says your religion or your people need to not exist. Yeah. To say that there are policies, there's military strategies that we question in terms of the betterment of what it means to be human together is different than a tone of accusation that would.
And this, if you want to translate or if you want to kind of import a similar type of conversation here, that again is very difficult to have because once again, as soon as you say immigration, right?
Yes.
And you start to talk about that, what do the people do? They run to their extreme corners again. You can't have a critical conversation to say, I believe that if you are Christian, if you claim to be Christian, and if you claim that the United States of America was formed and shaped by Christian values, which I agree with. I think the founding fathers were very shaped by their faith. I think morality-wise and how they thought about it. Now they were coming up with the organization of a governmental system based on some other stuff too. But Christianity was a part of their DNA and their faith. And so if you're a Christian and you believe that this country is founded on some Christian virtue, and family, then what you got to say when you look at this thing, for example, like immigration, right? Border policy. Yes, country needs a border. Yes, there are people here illegally, right? You can do something about it. But you can do it ethically. You can do it in a way that doesn't dehumanize people.
Yeah.
You can do it in a way that doesn't objectify people and turn them into something that's dehuman, non-human. And the way that some people talk about this or crow about this or argue about it on social media, which social media is just
It's a cesspool.
It's horrible. It's the worst. I mean, but it's just do. They go
But
on.
please, though, smash the like button.
Please like, subscribe on the social media. Share it with friends. Post it. Yeah, post this one and tell them we're talking about Gaza and immigration. And we, either love it or we'll be canceled.
Sure.
But no, I mean, it's like, why can't you have a conversation about these things without people's heads exploding, defending one far side or the other? No one is saying, look, if it's illegal to be here, and someone is here illegally, and the law says they're here illegally, and there's a process to go about it, I don't have any problem with that. Now, humanely, how do we treat people? They're humans. We don't treat them like cattle, and yet sometimes they do. We shouldn't. There's a process for allowing people to maintain and keep dignity. The United States of America is too good of a country to lose the ability to, whether they be prisoners or captives in war or anything else. We have a sort of a code of how we treat people, right? And it seems like now it's almost like spiteful vengeance that there's a group now that's gotten all frothed up about this. Like, now we're in charge, and now we can fix the problem or make it right or do whatever, all that stuff. I don't know which language you use. But can we do it in a way that has some human dignity, decency to it? I mean, that's the question that I have. Because if we lose that as a country, and I'm really talking more to people of faith,
100%.
I can't really talk to people not of faith. They're not going to listen to me anyway. But if you're a Christian, you're a person of faith, you have to hope and pray that we maintain a center with a sense of the value of humanity, of all humanity, right? Or if we lose that, it won't be long before it's turned back on us.
That's right. I don't know if this is right, wrong, or indifferent, but I was taught by my mom at a very, very early age that the center of my identity has been formed in Christ. The secondary and tertiary identities come after that. Being an American comes after being a Christian. And so then it begs the question, what does mercy require here? That seems to be a very deeply biblical question that Micah might ask, right? And so the question isn't what keeps me safe. We have to do all those things that we need to ask the question of. But then there's the deeper Christian question of what does the Lord require here?
Yeah.
Right? And I think that partly the issue I have with American Christianity right now is, number one, it's just that. It's American and then Christianity. But to ask the question, what is the questions that the Spirit invokes in this time? What does it mean? What's the lived suffering of people both in Israel and in Gaza? And is the policies that are set forth right now, would Jesus, in a sense, be honored by that, or is there a different way? The thing you're leading our church in, John, is always, what do you call it? The via media.
Oh, yeah, the via media, the middle way.
The middle way, right? And so
It's a very Anglican, Wesleyan understanding of living life and theology and everything else.
Which you've got, from what I understand by listening to you, that you've got the poles, you've got the right and left, or the up and down poles, extremes, and then you ask the question of the Spirit: is this the only way for me to? Is this the two choices I have? And it seems like the invitation is what Paul says: let me show you a more excellent way.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the via media, the more excellent way into this different dynamic. And so, so what does justice require here? What do we owe civilians and the population in these places?
Yeah. Well, it's a fascinating topic. So what do you think? I caught you both off guard on
dear
that.
Lord, man.
So
next week, euthanasia and your grandparents on Pod Have Mercy.
No, I mean, I stumbled across this yesterday on my reading. I was kind of like, this would be, hey, let's roll the dice. The fact that this is coming from the way that it's come from, I think too, when you translate this out, it made me think a lot about it because we were at the Holocaust Museum, and you start thinking about, okay, well, how do we, there were conversations from pastors. It's like, how do you speak into a justice issue, all right? A moral, ethical issue, an issue that should be shaped, like they're asking, these Orthodox rabbis are asking for moral clarity, right? That's what they're asking for. They're asking a call for moral clarity, responsibility, and a Jewish Orthodox response in the face of the Gaza humanitarian crisis. I would say the same thing would be written by us if we said a call to moral clarity, responsibility, and a Christian faithful response to in the face of the immigration issues that we're facing, or the issues of whatever the issues are in our world that we're dealing with in our country. And how can we have a conversation that it's like some of the pastors, we were at different tables, and one of the guys who was there is a Jesuit priest, the head of Strake School, and Strake Jesuit. And he's like, we could sit around this table. He said, we could have a conversation about difficult issues. And what I said to him was like, yeah, we could, because we all share some sense of moral civility about how we dialogue at the table. We're not like crazy social media, late night blog posters or podcasters.
Trying to win an argument.
Podcasters. But you know what I'm saying? It's like we have sort of, even we know because of what we've done, we have sort of this agreed upon ground rules of how we're going to talk. We're going to love each other. We're all Christian pastors. We're Catholic, Protestant. We believe in loving one another and being kind and gentle with one another. So we may radically disagree on something, but we could have a critical argument or discussion, even a disagreement on certain things. Now, we've lost that.
We have.
And so what happens is we run to the extremes. We do the whataboutism, Oh, so you just think all the illegal people should be able to stay here for free and be on the benefits? That's where people go. Yeah. It's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that well, the other question I have is if you round up if there are 11 million illegal people here illegally, and you round them all up, like they've already had to stop doing it at some places because there's certain industries where they're going to raid in certain places, whether they be farms or factories or meat packing plants, and all of a sudden you're going to have to ask yourself, it's like, okay, well,
wait, that means it's going to raise the price of chicken?
It could. I don't know.
Okay, let them kill chickens, but I mean,
but you've already seen now. Look in our country where when certain policies are in place, if certain people with a certain amount of money step in and say, hey, I'd like for you to kind of hold back on this particular thing because financially I'll pour into this or whatever, and then all of a sudden something changes because of the financial contributions. It's like what's really moving the needle?
Yeah, it's always money.
Is this a position of integrity of what you really believe that people who are illegal, or are you going to start now picking and choosing based on what benefits you? And those are conversations. Like, why can't we have those conversations without killing each other or without dismissing or saying I can't have a conversation with you anymore?
Yeah. I think the thing that concerns me is like the lack of vision that I, at least I see or read or hear about in Gaza beyond just the total destruction of it. And I wonder about that, in a lot of different ways. I wonder about like just maybe even our own country, like what's the vision? What's the deeper vision beyond, beyond the destruction of a people in Gaza or whatever the policies we're talking about? What's the vision for who we are? And so slogans, beyond slogans, like what's the vision for what it means? So you achieve that, 100%. You've achieved it. Who are we? At what price have we become that? Have we lived into Micah's, the Lord's dictum? This is what I required of you, Chapelwood. This is what I required.
Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God.
Right. Yeah. And so I think the problem I have with all the things that I'm reading and listening to about Gaza is just the absolute lack of vision, of moral vision for that, beyond the destruction of it. And that it feels, even with like the rabbis now coming forward and saying, this is a moral issue. Our country is not representing the moral center of who we are. And I think that is Jewish midrash. That's Jewish
and they're doing it
prophets.
Out of a sense of love for
Deep
their
love.
Identity and for Israel and for their integrity to defend
100%.
Themselves, to exist. But they're saying, we are better than this. They have the capacity to do it better. And that's why I'm saying, just like in the United States of America, we have the capacity and the resources to do it humanely, to do these things humanely, with dignity. We can do that.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know what to think and know where it even came from, where you deport like some guy who's from Venezuela and you deport him to Uganda. Like, I mean,
there's an evilness there.
Someone has to explain
there
what send them to Costa Rica or Panama or somewhere. I mean,
or back home
or back home. Even if they say, but even if the guy,
how about that?
No, but the problem with that is like some of these folks who are here on temporary protective status from Venezuela are here because they fled persecution under the Maduro regime. Yeah. So now you send them back. That's just as evil because all of a sudden when they land, they're going to round them up and say, oh yeah, well, you were the one that was like working or weren't supportive of whatever we wanted. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, but Uganda? Like,
is that a clerical error?
No,
we have
they
an
sent
agreement
some
with
to
them.
Asian people to Somalia or something. I don't, or Sudan. I don't know. I like.
That's crazy.
Somebody have to explain that to me. There's a lot of stuff, and here, I don't know. I got to stop talking about it. I'll get myself in trouble, but. I mean, I don't understand that. I do think it's almost like it's like they said, the deepest Jewish values are justice, not retribution, not vengeance. He said the heart of the Torah is justice, not revenge. And what I see now is a lot of vengeance, a lot of spite. I don't see a lot of compassion in the conversation.
Well, and I think just like anything, it becomes deeply politically motivated for a different end than securing something. Yeah. This is now, from every intents and purposes, beyond security measure. It's now entering into something else. And when you have Jewish rabbis and politicians and academics and people collectively like pausing and saying, could we ask these questions? Not out of a deep...
I think this article is something that should cause all of us who are reflecting on how to talk about it on both sides to think, okay, now it's not someone from the outside speaking in. I mean, this is the inside, and not only is it the inside, but it's the Orthodox rabbis, the Orthodox wing of Judaism that are speaking into where's the moral clarity, where's the moral responsibility in this.
Can I say this?
Yeah.
So those people historically, and maybe from your own theological background, they're called prophets.
Yes.
And often the prophets are not received very well. And often when you don't listen to a prophet, you enter into a deep place of exile for a long time. And not God-imposed exile, but an exile when you're not listening to the very heart and voice of God. And that's my concern for both for Israel and maybe for portions of our country, that we lost the ability to hear from each other and from the heart of God, because we have a vision that has been captured by something other than the gospel. And I think your leadership into the Via Media might be a way forward. So.
All right, so I have one last thought before we end. Or it's not a thought, but it's like it's kind of connected to divisive polarization, having sort of being able to critique and talk to one another in reasonable, sane ways, have conversations to sort out issues. I learned a term this week, nut shopping.
Okay.
Do you want to guess what that means?
Can I have some context? Because I'm from 1985, and that may have a different context, John.
Nut shopping. Now, I don't know if this has made the Urban Dictionary or anything yet, but I've heard it. So here's an example of nut shopping. You want to hear an example of nut shopping? So there was a story also within the last week or two of this Christian nationalist church group that they'd interviewed, and they went to talk to the pastor and the associate pastors and some members of the church, and this guy believes that women should not have the right to vote should be taken away from women, that there should be one vote per household, and the man is the head of the household, and the woman is the very complementary in roles and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So. Nut shopping would be you go and you pull this out and you say, now see, the Republicans want to take away women's right to vote. And the other side of that story would be like, I don't know, think of like you find the craziest, most off-the-grid statement by some liberal guy in San Francisco says, we should do.
You should be able to marry your pet.
You should be able to marry your pet.
I love my dog.
And if somebody wants to be gendered us for you,
pet-gendered,
2 years old before they even know what that means, then you ought to be able to do it. And they'll find that because they've been shopping for what? Nuts, right? So they find it. Then all of a sudden they say,
that went in a different direction.
Look at the Democrats. Look at the Democrats. They want to have surgery. Like, what were they saying? Like, remember, you send your kid to school, boy. It comes home a girl.
Yeah.
Like it's school.
Charlie Kirk has made $1 million on this.
A lot of this, but this is kind of the thing now. So this is the rage, the profitization or whatever, the monetization of this rage. So now podcasts, there was a South Park episode about this not too long ago.
Yes, there was.
Where the podcaster's only job is to like own everybody and find the craziest rage bait. Yeah, find the craziest number of things. So if you listen to some of these news channels, and it's on both sides, they'll find the most craziest, outlandish examples of both sides. They pull them out and say, see, Donald Trump wants to blah, 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 blah. It's like, I don't know, the Republicans want, or the Democrats. And now all of a sudden, this one crazy nut that you went shopping for and found applies to all the Democrats or all the Republicans. And then you lump everybody in together, and that's your weapon. They call that nut shop.
Nut shop.
The word of the week.
I'm going to harvest your nuts, boy.
You know what I would have done? I might have just shifted. I might have explained all that and then told us it was nut shopping.
That's not how suspense works.
Just saying, next time for my ADHD, a little off-brand brain.
But that's what makes it fun, is watching you squirm.
Because I don't really heard much what you said, but
watching you squirm was kind of part of it. Wasn't it fun? Watch him squirm.
Yeah. That was great.
Well, listen, this is it's a good time. Hey, next week or soon next Gisela. I don't soon. Coming soon to a theater near you. We're going to have someone very special on next week, and her name is Gisela Kreglinger. Kreglinger. What's German? It's hard for me to say. Gisela Kreglinger. And she has written, I've talked to a little bit about this. She wrote a book called The Spirituality of Wine, and also a Bible study called Cup Overflowing about wine and vineyards in the Bible, and how kind of we've misappropriated some of that in modern, especially Western church in America. But it's fascinating. I've been reading some of her stuff during the summer, and I reached out to her to see if she'd come. She's like, yeah, it'd be great. So she is a theologian, a New Testament scholar and a theologian, and does a lot of stuff around contemplative spirituality, Christian spirituality, but also grew up a multi-generational vineyard of winemakers in Germany.
Her family.
Her
Wow.
family generation. Yeah.
Can't wait to.
So it's going to be interesting.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
You're just gonna nerd out on that, John. I
No,
can't
I'm
wait.
just going to let her teach us. I think it's fine. It's
gonna be
fun.
great.
You know, it's like I think, the American church has American Christianity, Protestants particularly, had some really unhealthy kind of relationship with wine and alcohol. Some of it duly
Yeah.
earned.
Sure.
Right, in our unique history. But some of it, I think part of it is also causes us to learn
Yes.
or to lose what we can learn
Yes.
because the scripture is full of vineyard and wine and
Right.
it's one of the
It was
main
the metaphor.
It's one of the main
I am the vine,
blessings.
you.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the main blessings given by God to his people. And God refers to Israel as his vineyard. So when you lose that, you kind of lose a lot of great teaching. So it'd be interesting to have a conversation with her
be great.
about that. Yeah. Anything else?
It's great.
Well, hey, maybe next time we have an opening, I'll let you just pick the topic.
Oh,
and
I'm
you
bringing
come
it.
in.
I'm bringing it.
Okay.
I'm going to think about it.
Anyway, well, I'm John Stevens.
I'm Matt Russell.
And this is Pod Have Mercy.